This is a meeting of the Parking Authority of Fairfield, a regular meeting held on Thursday, February 24th, 2022. It's at 7 p.m. This meeting is being held via conference bridge, and we will now start the meeting by calling it to order by our chair, Rich Fitzgerald.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eileen. Good evening, everyone. As Eileen mentioned, we'll be calling to order the meeting here. I know we circulated the agenda a couple days ago, and actually the first order here is to review the meeting minutes from last month, January 27th, I believe. I know I need to circulate them a little while ago, actually about 2 weeks ago. So I had no comments to them. I'm not sure if others had any edits or comments. We're happy to take them. If not, I'll make a motion to approve them.
Can somebody second the motion?
This is Adrian. I second.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adrian.
And is everyone in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. So now we're going to move on to the presentation by PKF O'Connor Davies of the audit for the Parking Authority. It's being presented by Joe Centofanti, and Joe is on the call. So, Joe, I'll let you start. I will tell you, I did distribute to the board the guideline that you mentioned about, your basically the, how you'll go through the statements.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm just going to start with the beginning of the report. Page 1 is the auditor's opinion on the financial statement, and the opinion is a unmodified, or we call in slang clean opinion, which is a type of opinion that you're looking for. So there's no issues or scope limitations or gap exceptions, that type of thing. Starting on page 3 and going to page 7 is the management discussion analysis. And this is a good executive summary of the fiscal year operations and some of the things that changed as compared to prior year. So I do recommend everyone kind of read through that to get a very high-level overview of the operations for last year. So looking at the financial highlights on page 5, it talks about the decrease in that position of approximately $200,000. Your revenues were, as compared to prior year, were $404,000 less than the prior year. But your expenses were also less, not quite by the same amount, only by $114,000. Looking at a statement in that position, which is kind of a government term for a balance sheet. That's on page 8. So there's nothing really significant different from prior year. The only item of note is your advance collections did increase by almost $31,000. I think that relates to the more electronic, the ability for electronic payments and that type of thing. The unrestricted net position at year end, the second number from the bottom on page 8, was about $901,000. It's a decrease of approximately $80,000 as compared to prior year. And as we mentioned, the change in net position, which is on page 9, is the $199,885. I'm not sure what you normally do. The footnotes that there's not really anything different. That there's some formatting changes to kind of line it up with consistent to be with what the town is and what the rest of the government is. We have a standard format, and so these footnotes were kind of just reformatted, but they're all the same type of notes. The only one that might be a little bit different is the cash note. Note number 2. It just talks about that you don't have a separate calculations as far as your risk for your bank accounts because it's combined with the whole town. And then the other thing the last thing is of significance is what's coming up next year is the GASB 87, which deals with lease accounting. It's very similar to what the private sector lease accounting is, if you're familiar with that. And so basically what they're looking to do is all leases will be effectively like a capital lease. So you're going to have an asset booked, recorded in the financials for right to use and a liability for what you have to pay to use the assets. And since the authority does lease, that includes the parking lots and that type of thing. So that will be a significant change next year to the financial statements, where you'll see that. And then also as a lessor, you'll have some additional disclosure from the lessor side, but the lessee side, it will be more dramatic. We'll have these new assets and new liabilities that we don't see in the current statements. So that's, I guess, my high-level overview of operations, what happened, and in the audit report. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Thank you for conducting this. This is Rich. Maybe just take us through the non-cash charge that was implemented in the financials, just to kind of give us a little bit of background. Obviously, it was non-cash, but did contribute to the overall net loss. But maybe just give us a little bit of background. And then secondly, obviously next year, if at all possible, we really would like to have this audit report done to the best extent possible a little sooner, but we definitely know you guys did your best to get this on time for us, so thank you.
It'll get more integrated in with audit for this year. Just kind of a little bit of transition year and realigning. So do apologize for that, and I think we shouldn't have any problem in next year of getting. Won't be able to issue the audit, but we certainly could get you a draft because it would have to be issued at the same time down. But we could definitely have this meeting earlier with a draft than we are having it now.
Rich, when would you like it? In mid-January, or what's the?
I mean, I think if we could target somewhere like 3 to 4 months after year end, after our year end. So, just making sure the information is obviously, relevant for us if we had to make any decisions as a board. Obviously, it's been a difficult year for our business. And, if we had any, we do a lot of actions, throughout the year to the best extent possible. But it's always nice to hear if there's anything, sooner rather than later, what I would say, but all within reason. But, just given what's ahead of us still and still uncertainty, this is a valuable report for all of us, to go through and understand. So, and we had some new board members, obviously. So I think it's all valuable for everybody. So.
Yep. So end of September end of October is the target.
Yes.
Okay.
If we could.
So you'll have to work with the finance department because the information flow is kind of part of when the audit could get done.
Yeah, if I could just interject for a second, that conversation, then Joe, you can correct me, that Joe and I had was, and he mentioned this earlier, was that the town's audit has to be filed in December, so he has to finalize that audit. And our financial statements are now included in the town's audit. They're still separate pages, but they are included and roll up in with the town. So what Joe and I talked about, because I had mentioned that we used to always get our audit in November and at the latest, he had mentioned that what he could try to do is give us a draft in November, and that would give us an opportunity if there were any kind of adjusting entries or any kind of questions. Then in December, when he finalizes the audit for the town, which includes the parking authority, then he would issue a final report, final audit, and our numbers would then be finalized. Is that, am I summarizing that correctly, Joe?
Yes, yep, that's correct. I just couldn't issue one before the other, but yes, that we could certainly have a draft, and then the expectation would be that there really wouldn't be any changes. We would have done our audit work and worked with Eileen as far as any adjustments to that type of thing. So it would just kind of be more here it is, and the issue would just have to coincide with the town audit.
Yeah,
that would be great. I would definitely be on board for that if we can make that work.
Yep, I think that's definitely doable. Have a better perspective and on what we need. So we tend to start some of the work in May or June, and so we'll kind of be ahead of the curve. I don't think we really started the work until the fall, but this cycle we'll start it earlier, which means we will get it done earlier.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. So. I had a question, Joe, on the lease accounting. So this would be all of our leases for the lots and so on. Is there a minimum, is there a threshold amount that would not be included? Like, for instance, some of the smaller lease payments, is it all of them regardless of the lease amount?
Well, it kind of gets tied to a little bit to capitalization threshold. So, on the parking lot, that's your business would definitely have to be capitalized. But we're looking at leases for postage machines or water coolers, those types of things. Look to capitalize those, but anything that relates to the business you're doing, even if it's a smaller lease, would have to be capitalized. So the bar is going to be pretty low.
That's all right. I just wanted to make sure I understood so I could be, so I would know what to expect. What I was thinking about was like Trinity Lot and so on. That's a small lease for us compared to the others, and I just wasn't sure if there was a threshold for it, but that's fine. And I think it's probably more the only leases we have are for lots, and then the one with the state. And the state, we don't actually make a payment, so it's just a master agreement. So that's probably not included.
Right. If there's no payment or there's a $1, those type of leases, then they would not be included.
Yeah, we just pay for all of the expenses to maintain, all the property. But we, with the others, we actually make, quarterly or semi-annual payments.
Right. And then we'll have some calculations on the lessor side for those, those space that you rent to those businesses, but that's a little bit less complicated. So this would be something that we would talk about in May and June, because there's information to be gathered and calculations that are going to need to be done. So we'll do that before we get trial balances, so that we're set when we have that to audit, that we'll have all the calculations done. And it's going to be an asset and a liability, so it's going to look like you have debt that you don't have today, but it'll be an offsetting asset. Again, for that right to use.
Thank you.
Right. Joe, Richard asked another question. I just wanted to make sure we went back to it before I derailed things with my other questions. And I'm trying to remember the exact. I don't know if it was a deferred inflows or
it was a non-cash charge, Joe. Just maybe a little bit of background on that, and obviously,
obviously, what do you look at? I don't know what you mean by that.
It's all the depreciation, Joe.
Depreciation, yeah. Is there anything of note there, like any that's just consistent with prior year scheduling of that in those entries?
Yeah, so is there a page you're looking at, or you're looking at the cash flow statement, the depreciation of the 124 versus last? Yeah, I think some of the lives, I think we looked at the schedule and just extended some of the lives a little bit because based upon historical use, but it's pretty close to what 125 versus 132, what it was in prior year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and we had some purchases in FY20 as well as in FY21, so that were capitalized, in particular like the kiosk, the LPRs, things like that. So we had some new purchases, and those now got added to our depreciation amounts that weren't there in 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Perfect. And thank you. And I know you spend a lot of time in this process, and a lot of information you're providing to the team. So we certainly appreciate all the time that you put into this, and Joe, your team as well. So thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Joe?
No.
Thanks,
Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Joe, thank you for joining the meeting, and we'll be in touch. But thank you for providing these statements, and we really appreciate it. And we will talk to you, I guess, in April or May, which is right around the corner.
Right, yeah, it's coming up fast. All right. If anything comes up in the meantime, feel free to reach out.
Okay. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Joe.
Thanks for coming to the meeting.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sure. Good night.
Good night. Okay.
Eileen, I have just one question. I give real fast just for you. Is there a requirement to have a certain amount of cash available? Just a legal requirement or otherwise?
Not that I'm ever been aware of. I do not think so. We, of course, just from good management, you have to have the money to pay your bills and all that, but there's no threshold because it's so conditional on what your sales are and all of that. And, this year and last year, we've taken in a lot less revenue because of the pandemic.
And to your credit, kudos, it stayed. And the reason why I'm asking is it stayed, pretty close to the same. So.
Yeah, we try and sell permits, and we have a lot of people, and I'll be talking about this in a second. But we have people that are interested in getting permits, and so anyone who does call, if we have something available, we turn it out fast. Mackenzie and Chris in the office are very good about same day getting it out, getting the information out to the people, and trying to get them up and running with a permit as soon as possible.
That's great.
Well, so I'm congratulating you, but I should be congratulating Mackenzie. So thank you. Thanks, Eileen.
Okay, so you want me to move on to my section?
Sure.
Okay,
yeah,
this is
definitely.
very quick. So for the office report, for permit stats, in February, we sold 6 Fairfield permits and 1 Southport. Year to date, we've sold about 1,700 Fairfield and about 250 Southport, which is about 1,960, somewhere in that area, 1,950. That number represents 96% of what we sold in FY21 and 89% of what we sold in FY20, which was the pre-COVID period. So we're still down, but we're hoping, things will get better. We saw a significant decrease, as I mentioned at last meeting, in December due to, we're going to feel that it's Omicron, where companies like overnight pulled our number of parkers real significantly dropped, and I think a lot of companies pulled their people back. And now we're starting to see a little bit of an increase. It's albeit very slow, but we are seeing a little bit of an increase. And customers we have talked about, or just neighbors that commute, what I'm hearing is March and April, a lot of them are going to be going back. So we'll see how that happens. We have no wait list, so offers are out there. If anyone calls, as I mentioned, they're offered a permit. For parking stats, I don't have a lot of count information because we had some trouble with the LPR, but as I said, just through observation, I can tell you that it's slowly increasing. The number of day parkers, month to date for February, we've averaged 46 a day, and we've had majority, or the average at Fairfield is about 45, the average at Southport is 6. Year to date, fiscal year to date that is, we have had 86 day parkers per day, and as I mentioned, we saw a big drop in December, and that's what's pulling that average way down. Of the day parkers, 65% pay on the mobile app and 35% at the kiosk. The next item is just a really quick update on the station house. I'm going to be meeting, engineering and I are going to meet with the electrician in the next week or two to go over what the requirements are for the rental space, and just go over like a kind of a checklist of all the things that have to get done. We'll have to split out some of the electrical, and we also have to reset, change the timers on the lights and things like that, as well as they have to add outlets. So we're just going to go over the entire projects once again. I had met with them probably a year ago. No, it couldn't have been a year, but when maybe it was last fall. I don't know. It feels like a year, but it was probably in the fall. And went over a lot of the stuff, but more at a high level. So now we're going to talk the detail and be able to get their price quote on it, which should be coming in ballpark with what was first given to us by Public Works. And so I'll keep you up to date on that. And that's all I have for tonight to report on. If anyone has any questions for me on anything going on in the office. Okay. So
this is Adrienne. I have a minor question, and it's only if it's super easy. Do you happen to have a photo of the wall, which I had planned to take myself, and I ran out of.
Yes, I do.
I keep not getting the timing right to get over there.
And I will make a note to send it to you.
If you could send it to me, I have a call tomorrow morning with my the person I know who knows about different strategies for taking care, arranging for murals. But she had asked to see a photo of it, so
okay.
That would be awesome.
I have one that has,
sorry to bother you with it.
It doesn't, you can see the length of the wall. It's got some cones because I used the photo for some parking for some construction people, but it will give you a good shot of the wall, and you can use that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I don't think she needs the best photo in the world, but she just would like to have some sense of what it looks like. So that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, then I'm going to turn it back over to Rich.
Great. I guess that concludes the agenda and the meeting here. If there's no further questions. So with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:27 p.m. Someone want to second that?
I'll second that, Adrienne.
Great. Thank you.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Yeah.
7:27 p.m.
Okay. Sounds like it's unanimous. Everyone have a great evening and be safe.
You too, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Yes, hope so.
Yeah,
All right.
hopefully in person.
Bye-bye.